My name is Ali Hassan. I am a business development manager in our global industry solutions group. So, which basically means we look at industries such as federal government, state, local government, education, like Ron mentioned, K through 12, university, higher ed, defense, and even aerospace and satellite, right? So we have different people and we look at those areas and we understand, hey, what are the challenges our customers are facing? What are some of the things they want to achieve? And then we work backwards to understand what are some solutions with our partners that we can bring to the table and with some of these great services that Raju talked about to address some of those challenges, right? So my focus area is state local government. And within state local government, as you can imagine, smart cities is a key component that spreads across multiple verticals. So if we look at smart cities, the term has been tossed around many times over the last 10, 15 years, right? I mean, everyone's got a different definition of smart cities. And I have a global purview. So smart cities in the US can mean something completely different than EMEA or Asia Pacific or Latin America, right? So very different definitions. But the idea at its core basically is how does city, or it doesn't have to be cities, we'll interchange the word city with, again, as Ron mentioned, campuses, universities, any sort of community area, even private developments, right? We're seeing a lot of private-public developments that are taking place, mixed-use developments, which are operating like mini cities, a few blocks, and they have all the same services that a typical city would have. But the idea is, how do you use technology to augment some of those services and at the end make the lives of citizens better, make the operations of the city and the government easier, cost-effective, and provide some new services that the city can offer to the citizens. But if you look at smart cities, there's obviously multiple verticals below it, right? A city can have a lot of different functions that it's doing. So we kind of try to touch on all of these services in our approach to smart cities. So we're trying not to boil the ocean by saying you got to digitize your entire city, connect everything, and let's make this amazing Jetson town, which would be cool. But we have a little bit of more vertical focus to say, hey, let's look at a specific challenge in a specific vertical, public safety, traffic management, energy conservation, and see how do we solve that first challenge, right? How do we apply technology, solve that challenge, and then we move to the next, and then we move to the next, and then slowly build a roadmap to totally transform your city where it's leveraging all the services, technologies available. So we have multiple approaches in these spaces. If you look at smart waste management, right, there's solutions around connected sensors, connected trash cans, a lot of stories, fleet management, where the trucks that go around picking up the trash are becoming more optimal in their route selections and also in which days and routes they do to pick up trash. If you move up to air quality control, environmental sustainability is a big topic, especially in Europe, and definitely becoming heavier in the US area as well. So the air quality sensors, the environment, PM levels, all of that is becoming more important, and cities want to collect that data and expose it and share it with their citizens so they know, hey, in this block, my health is going to be better, whereas another block maybe needs a little more improvement. Citizen services is a huge space. And as I talk about these verticals, I want you to also think a lot of the things that Raju talked about, generative AI, applies to each of these verticals. And some of that I'll share as well. So if you look at citizen services, right, this is the idea of extending the city's services to the citizens by way of chatbots, 311 call centers, maybe using Amazon Connect, some sort of, online portals, open data portals where a city or anyone can come in and say, hey, what are the open permits in my region? What are some new restaurants that are coming up? What is this roadblock in front of my house? What construction work is taking place over here, right? And all of that can be front-ended with some sort of generative AI layer, a chatbot, so that it becomes easier for the data to be consumed and you can very quickly generate good answers for all this stuff, right? So that can be a front layer for all of these things. We have partners in the smart lighting, public safety space, whether it's whether it's video surveillance, crowd management, or even solutions like shot detection, in an open area, and even digital evidence archiving for police and fire, et cetera. So smart cities, in a nutshell, can be all of these things. And our approach is to say, like I said, let's look at specific industries, let's dive deep into those industries and see how we can solve individual challenges for our customers. So what value does the cloud bring to, well, this slide says mobility and transportation, but in general, to the cities, all the different services, right? As we know, cities tend to have IT centers, and sometimes those IT centers can be big and small depending on the size of the city. But one of the biggest things about the cloud, AWS Cloud in general, is it allows you to migrate some of those databases, those storage components that you have, the management of all of that to the cloud. In that process, gain some sort of cost efficiencies, but then also you free up your resources, right? If you needed 5 personnel to handle an entire data center, now all that data gets migrated, the infrastructure is managed by AWS Cloud. Now those resources can be repurposed for higher level use cases, such as maybe machine learning, right? Now the data is up there, it's managed. What value can I get from that data? Let's have our personnel focus on those kind of use cases. So that's one of the biggest advantages. Obviously, the cloud brings a ton of security, compliance. We actually have a GovCloud region, which basically addresses a lot of the FedRAMP compliances, our CJIS, which is a criminal justice compliance. So if you have data in those requirements in the GovCloud, you can address some of those high level compliance needs as well. And then once your data or once your application is in the cloud, now you can apply modern application development methods, right? So if you had a monolithic application, now you have the ability to say, hey, I want to transform this into a serverless environment. I can leverage some of the modern services that AWS has to offer, and I can start building on top of that. And this application just gets bigger and better now, and it's more useful. And it's a lighter application because now it's in serverless method, right? I'm not managing bigger workloads and stuff. So a lot of different benefits of taking whatever workloads you have to the cloud and then gaining efficiencies. And then on top of that, getting higher insights by layering machine learning, analytics, generative AI, those kind of things. So now you're getting a lot more data, so a lot more value from the data you already have collected. So I talked about data collection a couple of times, but data collection itself can be a little bit of a process, right? And also it depends on what type of data, where it's coming from. So in a smart city or community, data can come from all different spaces, right? In a back office environment, you can think of, hey, all my HR databases can be migrated very easily. And my ERP applications, my tax applications, finance applications, whatever I have can very easily be migrated. But then outside the office, in the actual city environment, the roadways, the infrastructure, the lighting intersections, the parks, recreations, there's a lot of data out there sitting that could be leveraged or pulled through from sensors. That's where the IoT piece comes in, right? We have the ability, cities have the ability today, and they already have a lot of sensor data that's collected and can be brought in to a repository where it can be analyzed. But that process, I simplified it by saying, connect the data, bring it in. But it's a little more cumbersome than that, right? We have to think about the network availability. We have to think about the sensors that go in. How do we communicate to these sensors? How do we manage these sensors? How do we make sure there's no rogue? No one just goes into a park area and gets on the Wi-Fi and starts to connect and get access to your environment, right? How do I make sure rogue devices are not being connected? Also, if I have network constraints, right? If I'm in a forested environment where I don't have ubiquitous Wi-Fi or anything like that, how do I get set up some sort of a private 5G environment where I can get some sort of sensor data to detect early fire detection? California and all these other regions around those environments. So there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. It's not as easy as just connecting the data and bringing it back. So AWS, obviously AWS in the cloud has over 200 services in depth and breadth to allow you to build applications. But then outside, we also have a ton of services that help you connect data all the way down to the microsensor or microprocessor level. So in this case, suppose you have a sensor manufacturer for example, air quality sensors, right? Air quality sensors themselves can have a simple code from AWS, free RTOS, that can itself identify and connect back to the cloud and start sharing data, right? So we can go all the way down to the microprocessor level. We have gateways that can sit at the edge with cloud runtime environments called Greengrass. Wavelength, we work with service providers to extend the cloud connectivity closer to the edge. We have devices, ruggedized hardened devices, the Snow family, that come in different forms and factors that you could put at the edge as well. So if I'm in an intersection environment, there's a cabinet, traffic management that's managing all those devices. I could put a ruggedized device in there, run some of the data collection services right on there, and even push some of the machine learning capabilities down to the edge. Because if you think about it, in an intersection environment, if I need to look at data and quickly make a decision on whether I turn the traffic light red, yellow, or green, or essentially, basically, if I make any decision based on computer vision, it needs to be instantaneous, right? I don't even have the time to do the round trip delay to the cloud. So we can take some of those machine learning inferences, push them down to the edge. So now the edge environment is learned from the other intersections, and now it's operating in the same way, right? So real-time decisions become very relevant, and that's where the whole edge connectivity comes into play. So a lot of different capabilities over here, but the idea is from edge to cloud, the entire connectivity from a hardware perspective, and particularly from a software perspective, AWS has a lot to offer in this space. So when we sit down with our customers to understand what challenge are you running into, we're not just trying to understand what is your business challenge, but also what are some of the constraints, right? Network connectivity, environmental stuff like that, because we hopefully can address a lot of those concerns. So let me actually pause for a second. I'll go back. So all of this kind of talks to the idea of connecting to data, bringing data into the cloud, organizing it, and basically having a ton of data in your cloud environment, which is great. A lot of our customers have already done that. The challenge, or not the challenge, but the next stage they're getting into is, great, I collect the data, I have it all, I've organized it, but it's still just data, right? How do I understand what this data is trying to tell me? There's obviously some sort of story that's trying to be delivered from all this data. How do I get to the business outcome that I can have an action on? And that's where some of the things that Raju was talking about comes into play. So hopefully this little thing plays while I'm talking. But Raju mentioned there's a service AWS has called QuickSight. QuickSight lets you very quickly build dashboards, business intelligence, BI dashboards, simple drag and drop, connect back to your databases, and you can generate dashboards, right? So visual screens, very easy to consume data, and you have like graphs and stuff you can leverage, which is great. This Amazon Q in QuickSight is something he mentioned, takes it a step further, right? Now I have dashboards, which is great, but what story is that dashboard telling me? So now, as you saw, and I can play it again if someone wants, as you saw, there was a little chat bot. I went in there and I basically said, hey, show me sales revenue reports for blah, blah, blah. So now that goes back, queries the data, my data in my corporate environment or city environment, that's in the Amazon QuickSight dashboard, and now has generated a story or a sort of a PDF summary of all that information. Now it's easy for me to digest this because it tells me the highlights, it tells me the impact areas, it gives me suggestions on next steps. And this is something I can take to my mayor, to my CIO, to my CXO, and be like, hey, of all the data collection we did and the IoT sensor we connected everything, here's the outcome, right? This is the result, here's the outcome generated by an AI agent, and then we're in a position to say, all right, let's take some action on this, and let's try to drive those outcomes that we're trying to make, right? So the whole story comes together when you apply Gen AI capabilities on top of all the data, but they both go together, right? Good data needs to be organized well, connected well, so that you get good value out of it with Gen AI and these chatbots. So really important to strategize across the board, and not just one piece of the whole puzzle. So I tend to talk fast, but I kind of rushed through all of that. The idea was, right, hey, we have services and everything to bring all that data together and essentially help you apply generative AI on top and address some of those use cases. The one challenge we're seeing across the board and with cities and school campuses and even communities is everyone started this journey. This is not brand new, right? A lot of our customers have already begun this journey 5-10 years ago, and they looked at those verticals, they addressed their challenges, they went and bought solutions for traffic management. They bought some sort of an ISV solution that addresses traffic signal prioritization, route planning. For waste management, they acquired a solution. For video surveillance, they probably already have a solution. And all of these solutions work really well in their silos, right? There's really no issue. Everything's working great. The pattern we're seeing with our customers is they're saying, hey, I have 5 use cases, I've addressed them, and everything's working great. I have a 6th use case, but now the challenge is I have a multi-vendor environment, right? And in some cases, these use cases are leveraging proprietary protocols, APIs, the data is sitting in a different data set somewhere else. I can't really get high level insights. And I also can't take my sixth use case and connect it back to understand what impact does traffic have on air quality, right? Or what impact does crowd density in a certain area have on traffic, which has an impact on air quality? How do we get all these data sets talking to each other and try to get high level insights across my entire city? There's a couple of options. A lot of our customers have said, we'll just go with a big vendor solution that addresses all these use cases, which is great. And we have partners that do that very well. The challenge is then you're kind of relying on that vendor to address your 6, 7, 8 use case as well, right? And also, if you have a local startup that's come up with an amazing solution that can address that use case, it's hard to integrate that into that big vendor solution because, again, different data sets, different protocols, different languages, right? So one of the approaches, there's an open source framework called Fiware, Fiware. Fiware is focused on building a framework that lets you, with cities, but even manufacturing environments, anyone, decouple the data producers, which is your cameras, your data sets, your assets, your sensors, and then from their data consumers, which can be your databases, your machine learning applications, the visual dashboards, mobile applications, right? If we, right now today, because of those silo solutions, they have a one-to-one connection. The camera talks to its video surveillance system. The traffic light system talks to its traffic management database, right? They don't talk to each other because they have one-to-one connection. What if we were able to disconnect the data producers from the data consumers and now have everyone talk to each other? That gives us the ability to now get these high-level insights, right? The way you do that is we have something called, well, we try and change the name. We used to call it the Smart Territory Framework, so my slides are a little old. Now we're calling it the Garnet Framework. But the idea is this is a framework, as the word says. This is not a finished product. This is open source. It's available on GitHub. But the idea is we take what we call the Fiware context broker. The context broker is, think of it like a central engine. So when we decouple the producers from the consumers, we started sending all that data to this context broker, and the context broker now starts to contextualize this data based on where it's coming from, what entity it's connected to, what attributes it has, what it's trying to convey, and they're all sort of organized in a contextual environment, right? So all that data comes through into the broker. And this is all sitting in AWS. And then to that, we attach AWS's IoT services to help you bring in data. So IoT Core, IoT Greengrass, everything. So now I have a context broker, I have ingestion services all sitting together, packaged, and that's what we call the Garnet framework, or previously STF framework, right? So this can be deployed within 3 clicks in an AWS environment securely. And again, it's open source. So, and that's the whole value. And what you do is there's an API input called NGSI, which again is an open API. So now we're moving away from the idea of being locked into vendors to now leveraging open APIs to bring in data from multiple sources. Now, if my 6th local ISV says, hey, I can send you the data to your context broker using this API, like, great, let's bring that in as well. And now it's connected to my other vendor solution that I already have in my context broker. So the control and the power sort of goes back to the cities to say, I want these use cases all contextualized in one space. And on top of that, I'm going to build a digital twin to visualize all this. I'll apply generative AI to get insights from it and generate some content and stuff and dashboards, et cetera, et cetera. But now you're not locked into vendor solutions. You're not locked into proprietary APIs. Everything's open and you can move things around very easily. So there's quite a few deployments of this in the Europe area and the Middle East. We've got some in the North America area as well. One example I'll give is we started working with Cartagena, Spain, and essentially Cartagena say, hey, let's set up a demo environment, a little pilot, and we have air quality sensors deployed all over, and we would like you to bring a partner to do that. So we have a partner called Libelium. Libelium came in, they deployed their air quality monitors in a few points in the city. And they started sending that data to the Garnet framework core, right? The data was coming in and everything's connected, working flawlessly. And they built some dashboards and everything was great. And they also had parking sensors. But then the city said, I really want to convert this into a digital twin where I can visualize my city and also the points where these sensors are deployed and I can visualize the data, right? So we brought in another partner, MetaWorldX, a small startup, and we told them, hey, look, we need you to extract the data from the Gartner framework and build this digital twin. And I kid you not, within like a week and a half, they had this digital twins up and running with live data streaming from the Libelium partner, right? And the cool part is not the fact that it was working, because that's technology. You connect things, they'll work. The cool part was that MetaWorldX, the digital twin partner, never spoke to the Libelium sensor partner ever. They never said what protocols are using, what sensors are using, because everything was based on the FireWire open APIs. They just tapped into this Gartner framework and pulled everything out and were able to deploy it. So the city had the control to say, I want this partner for this solution, I want that partner for this solution, and you guys just have to pull the data that I'm storing in my STF or the Gartner core, right? So very easy to spin up new use cases, have multi-vendor solutions, still interconnect all this and get higher level insights by leveraging this open platform. So I want to pause over there and see, Ron, do we have any questions or anything? I tend to talk fast, so I want to make sure people are sort of.
No, we're just getting lots of good feedback. So I would just try and finish it up.
Yep.
Just one other comment that I see, and it's coming up. We see lots of not only municipalities, colleges, but corporations all across the board. When they hear about IoT, smart city, smart campus solutions that rely upon some of the tools that Raju spoke about earlier, a lot of these previous applications for citizen interaction, first-tier tech support, all that were previously done with a lot of separate vendor solutions. We see lots of organizations, when they see the power of AWS and the flexibility it offers. Obviously, AWS is partnering with several of the companies like smart meter reading companies and the like. But we're also seeing organizations saying, maybe I could consolidate my vendors. Maybe I could use a common platform for doing a whole suite of what I call interactive IoT data collection solutions that my government agency, my university campus needs. And so I'm going to encourage everyone to think about that, because as you look at training your staff and having them focus on one platform, and with AWS making it so easy for you to create solutions, you may find that you could save money, get rid of, it's always a little bit of a pain in the neck to handle lots of different vendors. And I'll tell you, we saw that a lot going on in the private sector when organizations, when you're looking at like, how do you respond to first tier tech support? How do you respond to website first tier increase? There are a lot of historical companies who are involved, like in call center solutions and stuff like that. And then, which was a standalone platform. Now they're looking, gee, we're getting rid of landlines. We've got all these tools. Why don't we try standardizing on one solid and proven technology platform for a whole array of compliance, security, financial benefits? Anyhow, my two take as you finish up here, Ali.
Yeah, I was just going to wrap up in 5 minutes. So no, you're absolutely right? That's the value of the Gartner framework. So it lets you focus on the open source capability and sort of take control back. Having said that, I'll give you an example right over here. People want, especially in public sector, our customers typically want to buy solutions that are fully built or semi-built, as opposed to just a bunch of services that they have to put together, right? And an example is, like, if I go to Home Depot, my wife doesn't care about the cool drills and stuff I bought. She just cares, is the furniture fixed, right? They just want desired outcomes. So for that reason, partners are one of our biggest go-to-market in this space, right? In the public sector space, our solution vendors, our partners, our consulting partners is the primary go-to-market for us. So at AWS, we have something called competencies. A competency is basically, within our partner program, we have over 100,000 partners, and they all do very great solutions. But we still want to highlight the ones that specialize in some technologies or some industries, and then that have validated their solutions by meeting all of the AWS best practices. And then we promote them to say, hey, for this set of challenges, here are some validated solutions that hold a competency from AWS, right? So we have competencies for IoT, for database, for machine learning, Gen AI, and we also have one for smart cities. So the idea is, identify the partners, and we do that, and that fit the smart city portfolio, validate their solutions by AWS best practices, and then promote them in a library or different ways so that when our customers come and say, I have this challenge, we can very confidently say, we have a partner that's validated, tested, that can solve that challenge for you, right? So our competencies started in 2022 and it's actively growing. It's global. You'll see big names like Deloitte in there. My Vision is a traffic management company I talked about that has computer vision-based traffic signal controls. Quantella does all the dashboarding, backend, smart city, digital kiosk management. Rubicon it's a great example. Rubicon basically is a waste management company. Well, they're not a waste management company, they're a technology company that focuses on waste management, but they outfit a truck, garbage truck with a bunch of sensors and also the driver with a mobile application. So now as the truck is driving around collecting trash, through the camera, they can use computer vision and machine learning to look at the bin levels and see if there's any trash that's overflowing. And also they can optimize the route through all the sensors to say, you know what, these are the routes we want to take based on the trash collection schedules. But also they put sensors on that truck that looks outward and it's looking at bumps in the road, it's looking at fire hydrants that are blown up, and it's collecting all that data, presenting it in a smart city dashboard to the city and saying, our trucks are on the road all the time. So here's what we're seeing in your city, and you might want to take action on that. You can create a ticket, go fix a pothole, fix a fire hydrant, or stuff like that. So it's cool how they took one use case and built multiple use cases out of it. Rekor, again, in the transportation space, a really strong partner that does classification of vehicles and can help with tolling and traffic management, etc. So a lot of partners in the space, and like I said, that's going to continue to be our primary go-to-market. And I guess while I wrap up, the one thing I'll say is, whatever challenge you have in the smart city or government space, let's have a conversation and we either be able to bring you the services or the partners that have those offerings and hopefully address some of your needs. So with that, I'll wrap it and back to you, Ron.